Sunday nights, black and silver dreams. Hope ran dry quicker than it seemed. Same old talk, same excuses. Another year of Raider blues. Vegas lights don't hide the scars. Fourth down prayers, broken hearts. We rode hard, we paid the price. Buried hope by week 9. Put it in the dirt, let the whistle blow. Another Raider year, laid 6 feet low. We drank the Kool-Aid, paid our dues. Rock bottom blues and black and shoes. Yeah, we scream, yeah, we stay, yeah, we lose. Raider Nation never quits on you. Watch from banners high while Sundays teach us how to sigh. Laugh through pain, curse the screen. Love this team like a bad routine. Put it in the dirt, let the whistle blow. Another Raider year, laid 6 feet low. We drank the cool.
What it do, Raider Nation? Welcome into Raider Nation, Show Me Your Shield. Episode 4. Even though we had a surprise one on Sunday, I'm going to count this as our 4th one. It's just me and my co-partner here is going to be Donuts Duncan. Donuts, how are you, man?
Doing good. Ready to start this off season.
Yeah. A lot of things have happened in the last 48 hours in our world. Some of it good, some of it bad. Never like to see anybody lose their job, especially somebody of Pete Carroll's stature, right? But at the same time, it was a necessity that had to happen, and especially we're going to go through some of the things that have actually come up in the last few hours. A lot of it's rumor and conjecture, because as you know, sources are just that. You know, anonymous sources are just that. Take it for what it's worth. But sometimes when you hear a rumor, sometimes it can be true. You know, especially with some of the visual evidence that you have to support that rumor. Okay, so I'm going to start off. We're going to have some fire big picture questions, but first, some housekeeping. Number 1 today is Howie Long's birthday, so happy birthday to Howie Long today. I don't remember how old he is, but he's in his 60s. I think he's 64 this year, 65. Maybe, and also I celebrate my birthday the same day, so I'll give it to myself. Whatever.
Happy birthday.
So, and my anniversary too. I got married on my birthday, so wife did that intentionally, so I'd never forget our anniversary. So, anyway, salute to the 12 people that are in the chat. Donuts, if you want to go ahead and acknowledge our chat for us.
Yeah. Got Robert Pena. What's up? Salute. Got Jack Gusta Fest.
Just say Jack. Don't go any farther.
Bossman Jeffson.
Yep, snooping on us.
Yeah. Andrew Dahman. What are you guys talking about? Oh, yeah. Raiders.
We're going to talk about the Raiders, but we're going to talk about a lot of stuff that has transpired in the last 48 hours. Some of it is old, some of it is new, and then we're going to give our takes on what we think. right?
Yep.
If you're in a chat, throw your takes up in the chat as well. Okay, so we have an idea, and it doesn't hurt. Okay, everybody has opinions. I get it. Your opinion is just as important as mine, but let's debate it. All right. So
Send in wishes.
thank you, Jack. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's tough getting old, man. The bones ache a little bit more, and the cold, a little bit more sensitive to the cold and whatnot. But it's okay. I can deal with it. I'm still young at heart. All right, big picture questions here. I'm gonna run through this real quick. I don't have no soupy monologue to give to you guys tonight. I think the soup is over with. So let's be honest with each other and let's get to it, man, because we got a nice program set up for you guys, and just get in here. If you know somebody, there's 21, 22 people in here. If you know somebody or whatever, get in the chat, man. We'll get this rocking. Trust me, we will get this rocking. Big picture questions. Now that the coaching staff is gone, do the Raiders finally have a clean slate, or is the real problem higher up? Is this the most important coaching hire the Raiders have made in the last decade? And should the next coach be chosen to fit this quarterback or to build a culture first? Duncan, what do you say?
I mean, with all of our failure and us keep recycling coaches and GMs, I would say the issues are higher up. But with the statement of Pete Carroll's release, they also said Spytech will be in charge, with Tom Brady having a heavy hand in it as well. So sounding like Mark Davis is kind of stepping back. So that may solve some of our issues there. As far as coaching hire, I mean, every new hire is the most important to date. I mean, you're always looking for the future. So definitely the most important to date.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the coach, like what coach we should choose, I mean, you can go with the culture, or you can go with one to specifically mentor the quarterback. It's tough because if you go for a culture or a defensive coach, you bring in an OC who's going to be the one who's mainly responsible for mentoring the young offense we have, as well as what should be our franchise quarterback.
Daryl Spears, salute to you, brother.
Do something dumb. They could be gone if we end up having success. So it's almost, I kind of lean right now towards going off for a offensive-minded head coach. That way they can't be stolen from us if we do have success, and really to mentor that young quarterback that we should be drafting.
Yep. Yeah, and we'll dive into it a little bit more when we get into the next topic of what type of profile we're going to be searching for. But a couple more guys just popped in the chat. Raider Ryan, thanks for coming in, brother. Daryl Spears from a Chiefs fan, great win. I think that was just lesser of two evils when it come to that game. We won the game, but it's not. That wasn't a competitive Chiefs Raiders game. That was.
I disagree. It was competitive in the sense on both teams were playing backup players, practice squad guys, like guys that were hungry to get playing time. So it was competitive in that sense. Like, did it have very much meaning? No, but it was a well-fought game between players that don't get a lot of playing time during the regular season.
Yep. I agree with you on that standpoint, but I disagree with the fact that it was a usual Raiders-Chiefs rivalry type game, because it was basically a preseason game.
It was a glorified preseason game.
Okay. Yeah. So we can agree on that's something we can agree on.
Yeah.
All right, man. I myself, the type of coach that I'm looking for, here's the deal. I am not going to try and tie down the type of coach that we want or I think that we should have. I'm going to not try to tie it down to a specific name. Okay. I will mention names, and I will say I like this guy, I like that guy, but at no time should that be considered I'm contradicting myself. A lot
Yeah.
of times it's just basically out there. Let's it's like when you go to Baskin Robbins. There's 31 flavors, right? Sometimes you want to try a couple others before you pick. You know.
Yeah.
Let's hit real quick before I move on to the next topic. Is this the most important coaching hire the Raiders have made in the last? That will this be the most important coaching hire that they've made in the last decade?
Yeah.
Absolutely, it has to be. It has to be with the number one pick going into this draft with the number one pick. And with the roster that we have, it is imperative that the type of coach and the quality of coach that we get comes in, understands what the plan and process is, and can execute that. And going into next year, we can see that with our own eyes that we understand the plan and the process. Because whatever plan and process they had in 2025 that they told us at the beginning of the year was not what we saw.
Yeah.
So, one of the most important things, having said that, is the head coach profile. I'm going to pick my side, my style. You're going to pick your side, and I'll throw some topics out there. Is it someone that you think should be an offensive-minded head coach or a culture-setting CEO type coach? Which does this team need more?
Well, I mean, the team just needs an identity. So I can argue that you can get that through either way.
Yep.
You get an offensive coach that can really build a quarterback for the franchise, and we find an offensive success, like that will build an identity for us. You bring in somebody like John Harbaugh, who's more of a special teams guy who has his hand in everything, where he's more of a culture guy, like can build an identity that way. Or a defensive coach where we really start shutting people down. Like it can go any which way, really.
Right.
And just
I myself is depending on which direction that they go with the type of head coach that we get. I would much prefer that basically a combination of both, of a culture setting and a CEO, right? Somebody who can delegate, but also have a culture setting presence as well. And, but I also know a specific angle, or I believe in a specific angle in which we should go with that coach. And that brings me up to the next, bullet point on this subject is it somewhere where we lean with an experienced retread or a first-time head coach with modern vision?
I think with Brady and Spytek, especially with recent news on Spytek, I'm more willing to go with a young coach that can grow with the team.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like Spytek really has a vision on what he wants this team to look like and the type of players he wants in. So I'd be a lot more willing to bring in a young coordinator to be our head coach and really start growing with the team.
Yeah. I exactly. I really and truly, honestly, the next head coach has to be a positive with a minimum of a 4-year plan. And I know what a lot of people miss out on is Mark Davis has always said, and this is his philosophy, that when he hires a coach and a general manager, if he sees progress, then it's hands off. But if he sees regression, then we have to readdress this, because regression only gets worse. It doesn't get better, especially in the coaching race. And you can see some of the coaches that have gotten fired within the last 24 hours that the reason why they got fired is they had success and they regressed. And that's why they're losing their jobs.
Yep.
Jack, thank you much, man. Salute to you, brother. So having said that, experienced retread or first time head coach with the modern vision? I mean, what's your take on that?
I mean, I'm kind of getting tired of the retreads personally, but there's a few where it makes sense. Because if you look back at like the hot topic of almost a decade ago now was second time head coaches and the success they started finding and how they started being more prominent of a go-to for the head coach candidates. So you got guys like Sala or Flores who are very interesting. Sala's more of a rah-rah guy, but very well coached defenses. Flores is that guy. Just you cannot play offense against that guy. He knows how to stop everything, but he's more of a stickler. He's kind of an old school hard ass, which that may be something we need too.
Okay. So we're looking at scheme innovator versus a disciplinarian who sets a hard standard.
Yeah. And then you have somebody young and upcoming like Kubiak, who's kind of making himself out to be an offensive guru. Only downside with Kubiak is his lack of experience, because he's been an offensive coordinator now for 2 years on 2 different teams.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been an offensive assistant or offensive coach for a few years. And then you have another young guy in like Chris Shula with the Rams defensive coordinator, who's had a very good defense for 2 years now and has those guys flying.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, personally for me, like those 4 guys are probably my top 4 candidates. And then another name to add in there would be the Texans defensive coordinator, which his name is actually escaping me right now. I think it's Matt Burke.
Yep.
And even though the Texans head coach is a defensive guy, Matt Burke actually calls all their defense and had his hands in the making of their scheme. No. So he'd be another very interesting name.
Yeah. Well, would you trust a defensive head coach in an offense-driven league with an offense-driven type roster?
I mean, I can, but the problem with a defensive mind is if you have to get a good offensive coordinator to be able to run that offense. No. And if you do find a really good one, you have a good chance of him being stolen by another team to become a head coach himself. So then it's kind of like you're trying to pick and choose the right offense coordinator who's going to bring success, but also not be stolen. So then that's where your retreads come in. So somebody like a Dable or a Stefanski, if he wants to be a coordinator for a couple years. There's also possibly, was it Zach Taylor from the Bengals? But I think they actually came out and announced he's staying with the team.
Mm-hmm.
So he's off the board now. So I don't know. There's a lot more interesting defensive names in my mind than there are offensive ones, but Kubiak is probably the top on my list because he's offensive. Another person I could be talked into is LaFleur from the Rams, from the McVay tree. He's their offensive coordinator. The only issue with him is he's not a play caller. McVay runs that offense. So that gets a bit iffy for me, bringing in a coordinator to be your head coach that doesn't call plays.
Mm-hmm.
And then DT Raiders is asking about Curt Cignetti. Personally, I'd love Cignetti. He's a great offensive mind. He runs a pro-style offense and really emphasizes the run game. He's not coming out of college.
I can, and expand on that a little bit. He just signed a multi-year contract extension. He's established himself at a university that is really starting to take off, and he's doing things at this university that has never been seen before. So a lot of times a reputation is more important than seeking the next fix, like a drug addict would be. So we could probably offer him more money to come to the NFL, But where he's at right now in Indiana, that guy is off limits for the next 4 years. Okay, unless he obviously absolutely tanks in the next 2 years, and I don't see him doing that. I see him he will have no more than 3 losses over the next 3 to 5 years per year. So,
Well,
and that is a successful head coach, and especially at Indiana in the Big Ten, playing the competition that he plays and the type of schedule that they have. He is definitely where he is. He's fixed. I don't think he's hands off. I think we can make a phone call and talk to him. I don't think he's hands off. But there's also an element into that that's also called a buyout clause. So if we were to hire him, we would also have to pony up a little extra money to buy out his Indiana contract. So I like how you guys are thinking. And Kirk Cignetti is from that Nick Saban coaching tree. And I get it, but there's also a point in time where you go college is college and pros is pros. What he's doing in college, you got to remember he's only been a head coach in college, 4 or 5 years now, and this is his second year at Indiana. So I'd kick the tires on it, but I would not make that a priority whatsoever. Buddy, they only run 3 schemes in the NFL, players, not the coaches. So basically what he's saying is, for all intents and purposes in the NFL, there's 3 basic schemes of defense. And each coordinator specializes in which scheme they like to run. It's absolutely imperative that the players are just as important, if not more important, than the coaches that you get to run that scheme. You say any different there, Duncan?
oh, a little bit. I mean, the scheme matters a ton. And if you don't have the right coaches to coach up the scheme for your players, then you're not going to be successful.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Raiders this year with the reports coming out about a certain coach not doing his job, and it showed in the areas we were very lacking.
Since you brought that up, Duncan, let's just expand on it. This is something that has just come out, ESPN reports, in the last few hours. It's something that really intrigues me, but at the same time doesn't surprise me. So if you want to go ahead and hit on that, Duncan.
Yeah. So this is in the middle of a report from ESPN talking about the Raiders and their whole preseason and during the season. But in this section, it's saying that what did I do?
You're messing around with the screen here.
No,
you deleted it. Anyways, yeah, you deleted. You actually deleted it off the desk, but that's fine. We can dive into it a little bit more. ESPN was reporting that during the course of the year, the offensive linemen were having difficulty with their preparation with their offensive line coach, and in doing so, they turned to the general manager for help because they weren't getting the necessary help from the offensive line coach. To me, I call that a shocker. But if you want to dig into it a little bit more, Duncan.
Yeah, so they're talking about complicating matters was that the offensive line coach is Carroll's son, Brennan. Brennan had spent 5 seasons in Seattle with his dad as the assistant O-line coach and 1 as a run game coordinator. He was then the OC and O-line coach for the University of Arizona and the University of Washington, working for the head coach Jedd Fisch at both schools before reuniting with his dad in Vegas this season. Washington ranked 6th in the Big Ten in yards per game during Carroll's own season there, and Arizona's offense was among the Big 12's best during his tenure. What they don't say, though, is both those teams' offensive lines were actually really poorly ranked in those seasons with Carroll as their O-line coach. Mm-hmm. Pete's other son, Nate Carroll, is the Raiders' assistant quarterbacks and game management coach, and also worked for Pete Carroll in Seattle. A lot of guys were out of their natural positions. Left tackle Colton Miller told ESPN, "It's not easy, but Brennan Carroll tried to get the best of us together each week." An agent of the Raiders' offensive lineman said that his client told him the position group met multiple times on their own with Smith, our quarterback, and Genty, Ashton Genty, the running back, and specifically without coaches. So the quarterback and running back could talk to them about how they wanted the offensive line to create blocks. It was that bad. The agent told ESPN they were meeting on their own and trying to figure out together, which I have never heard of in the history of working in this league. There is some sort of nepotism going on, a fourth agent of Raiders player said. The agent also said his client said that Brennan Carroll rushed players through individual drills at practice and didn't teach them what they were trying to achieve in those specific drills.
That right there is you can lay credence to that rumor. Because what we saw and how they were actually playing was very relevant to what their preparation was. I mean, you could just tell the way they were playing, that they were lacking preparation. And individual drills, when the coaches coach, the individual coaches, your position coaches coach is during individual drill, right? So your cornerbacks coach is coaching cornerbacks, then the defensive, the defensive line coach coaches the defensive line, linebackers coach the linebackers, secondary coaches the secondary. Then they go from individual preparation to group preparation. Now they all three stack together. That's where the defensive coordinator comes in with all three. Now he puts a little bit more of his lipstick and makeup on that preparation. And I'm using defense as an example because it's just the way it is, right? I'm more focused on the defensive side for some reason right now. But take into consideration what we saw and the development of Rodgers and Grant, they're not ready. They're not ready. Well, why aren't they ready? That right there tells you why they weren't ready. Is because if the individual coach, the position coach, is not doing his job to get everybody in that room ready, and just because you have 5 starters doesn't mean the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th guy on the roster doesn't need to be coached. Okay? So if he wasn't doing that, that's an abject failure on his part. Plain and simple, 100%. So having with this room, the only thing that I wish about this article is, and it's hard to do because when agents release information like that, they don't want to boy out their client because that will hurt any future negotiations that any teams might have with that person. The agents they basically have that attorney-client privilege, so they have to keep specifics and names out of their mouth when they relay information to our NFL insiders, such as Adam Schefter, Tom Pelissero, Daniel Jeremiah, whoever it is, it's getting inside information and how they're getting inside information. That's why it sucks, because I personally don't like to take an anonymous source told me, right? Well, an anonymous source could have told you whatever. I don't care. Give me a name. Give me something to validate it. Well, having said that, what you just showed with this article that has come out and what we saw throughout the season, what say you?
I mean, it's not surprising. I mean, us fans were calling bullshit on Brennan Carroll throughout the whole season and even in the preseason. Like, JPJ was clearly the best center on the team that we had this going in the offseason all the way through the season. And he had to compete as center during the whole mini camp. And then it wasn't until a week and a half or a week before preseason started where he lost that position and was competing at right guard, which he never played before for the Raiders, against Alex Kappa, who was the worst rated center in the entire NFL the season prior. So it was a total cluster. And then you had our left guard, Parham, not a great guard by any means, but hey, he was one of the best ones we had on the team this year, so he had to play, and he had his best season at right guard last year. And they flip him over to left guard. It's like we went into this season thinking that, I don't know, we're smarter than everybody else who coached these players before, and we're going to do whatever we want just to prove how good you are. It doesn't make any sense. And then as far as Geno Smith and Ashton Jenney having to have meetings with the offensive line without the coaches around, like that just shows how horribly coached they were to begin with. Like you have to get away from your coaches in order to come up with a scheme that's going to somehow work. Like, how are you supposed to call any plays like that? Like that just creates total disconnect. If your coaches aren't involved with how your blocking scheme is supposed to be, how are you calling plays? That's I cannot hear you.
I'm sorry, my mic was muted. Let me replay that for you. So having said that, the rumor of Chip Kelly, after he was fired, the rumor coming about that he was calling plays during the game that weren't practiced throughout the week, that adds a little bit of fuel to the fire of what we saw this year with the offense. So having said that, and we know where we were with this previous regime, the next regime that we're going to have has to be absolute clean across the board. There can't. I'm sorry with this rumor that would, and I'm going to call it a rumor, but with this report / rumor that's coming out, and I have a tendency to believe that that's actually true based on what we saw in conjunction with what's being said. Absolutely, positively, I don't care which coaches are under contract, they are gone. Because there's no way you're going to fix any of that unless you get all new coaches in. And that comes from the coach, the assistant to the assistant to the assistant, the assistant strength and conditioning coach, the head strength and conditioning coach, the next head coach needs to be hired within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And they need to get the ball rolling to hire the rest of their staff. Now, I do know that a couple of our targeted candidates will probably make a deep run in the playoffs, which is going to hinder that. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt to at least give the knock, knock, wink, wink, and a backdoor handshake to the person that that you're going to hire. And he can, on his own free time, start to get his contacts ready to go.
Yeah.
But anything else on that topic for you?
The whole article had me heated. Just the whole ineptitude of the coaching staff is ridiculous. And if I'm not mistaken, Brendan Carroll was also our run game coordinator.
Yeah,
so he was fully in charge of how run plays were supposed to be developed and ran. And clearly he was, because that was what we were absolutely terrible at. We couldn't run block worth of crap. We couldn't find holes to save our life. Ashton Jenney he didn't even have 1 yard before getting hit, right? On average. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous that somebody like that is allowed into the NFL all because he's daddy's boy.
How many rushing yards did he have this year?
Ashton Jenney? I think he
like 980 or something like that.
High of 1,000. It was like 990 something.
Yeah. So let's just say I'm not going to look it up, but let's say he had 990 yards rushing. He probably had 1,100 yards after contact.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It was, and I know at the beginning of the year they had that comparable stat at the beginning of there, and it just made you sick to your stomach. There is no way that you're not going to have any success with that type of statistical performance.
I mean, I will say on a bright side, it just gives me so much hope that he's going to be an all-star, Ashton Jenney.
Yeah.
We get an above average offensive line and he's just going to be churning.
Yeah.
There's going to be straight up games where he just takes over because nobody can stop her.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if he could get 2.5 to 3 yards before contact.
Yeah.
He's going to have average freaking 4 or 5 yards a carry. It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah. Let's tap this real quick. What's your thoughts on Harbaugh?
No, thank you.
Yeah. I have mad respect for the man. Did a killer job in Baltimore. 18 years. That's a long run as a head coach. But when you're talking retread, somebody coming off an 18-year stint in one position and try and take him to another. I know Andy Reid is kind of a misnomer when it comes to that. You know, he had a long run in Philadelphia, and then he just next day was in Kansas City and just hit the ground just took off from where he left off from Philadelphia. Actually, got better. I think he did a better job in Kansas City than he did in Philadelphia.
Well,
But he had a better quarterback as well.
I also think Andy Reid's not the best comparison, just because Andy Reid was widely known as an offensive guru in the NFL. And like us fans could see it too with Philadelphia. Philadelphia always had a good offense with him. And they always had electric players because he found those speedsters that just worked great in his system.
Yeah.
Where John Harbaugh, he was a special teams coach, and he kind of does defense too, but it shows their offense is very lacking with him based on who their coordinator is.
Yep.
Like he relies too heavily on his coordinators.
Yep. So the next topic we're going to get into here is kind of where we're at now as a franchise, having the number one pick, right?
Yep.
And so quarterback connection. Should the Raiders hire a coach because of a QB fit, or draft a quarterback to fit the coach?
I mean, that's a tough one, because if Dante Moore comes out, you have 3 possible first-round quarterbacks. Oh, no. Chambliss already said he's going back to college.
He's going back. He's not coming out.
You possibly have 2 if Moore comes out. And that's a big possibly, because Moore, I don't know. It seems almost 50-50 on this point if he's staying in college or going pro.
I think he's leaning more towards I think he's closer to the 80%. And the reason why I say that is because Oregon is being active in the portal for another quarterback.
Okay. So if that's accurate, then yeah, Moore's coming out.
Yeah. And there's a couple things that weigh into that. Number one, he's rolling into the college football playoffs, already having some success in the college football playoffs, which, you know, that's putting him up against better competition. 2 is he's right now rated as a potential number 1 or number 2 pick in the draft. Okay. And 3rd, his offensive coordinator, who he entrusted greatly with, Will Stein, is leaving to go to Kentucky. So that's going to change a lot of variables as to whether he stays or where he goes. Now, a lot of people go, oh, you could stay in college and get NIL money. Well, how much NIL money is going to get for 1 year versus if he comes out and gets a 5-year fully guaranteed rookie contract that's $35-40 million? You know, that entire contract is going to be guaranteed as a number 2 pick, number 1, number 2 pick. So,
plus he'd be compared against the name of Manning.
Then there's a second aspect to that as well, is he can't help his draft stock anymore. He can only hurt it by going back.
Yeah.
So if he goes back and let's say he totally stubs his toe and, you know, throws a few more interceptions, shows a lot of bad habits, you know, and now his draft stock's going to tumble, you know. And that, I mean, just ask Drew Aller at Penn State. Drew Aller, if he came out last year, he's a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Easy. Now what's he looking at? At maybe a early fourth, mid 5th round.
Yeah.
Just depending on what team needs and who wants to take a stab at him at that point.
I mean, I would take a stab at him. Draft him as the 2nd quarterback.
Yeah.
It won't hurt. He definitely has talent.
So I'm going to ask you this though: do you think it's smarter to pair a young coach with a young QB and let them grow together, or do you believe in maybe an established offensive coach coming in with a young quarterback?
Well, it really depends on who's the established coach.
Dable.
I mean, I'm not a fan of Dable, so I mean, people say that Dable's responsible for basically creating Josh Allen.
Yeah, and that's coming from Josh Allen, just so you know.
Yeah. Yeah, but Josh Allen also had his most successful seasons after Dable left.
But it was a preparation and a nurturing and a development.
Okay. How'd that go for Daniel Jones, who just had his best season before he got hurt this year away from Dable?
I don't think Dable liked Jones either. I think there was a disconnect there. You're absolutely right. Don't get me wrong. You're in the ballpark with that, but there's also that. Was there a disconnect between the two? Because it's not very hard for
Well,
there to be a disconnect between a good coach and a good player.
I mean, then it just shows the Giants are absolutely terrible as an organization because they re-signed Daniel Jones and then they cut him after they re-signed him.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if there was a disconnect, it's like, okay, you either get rid of Dable and re-sign Jones, or you get rid of Jones and don't re-sign him. It's like that simple.
Yep.
So I don't know how there's a disconnect between the two, but
yeah.
So
now having the first pick,
got fired with a rookie quarterback this year.
Yeah, but you know what? They were actually playing pretty good. I think what really the straw that broke the camel's back is he tried to supersede the concussion protocol. He was trying to, well, not supersede, but intervene, because what had happened was Jackson Dart most definitely should have been in concussion protocol, and he was trying to keep him out of it because he was having success with Jackson Dart. He went into the blue tent. That's a no-no. Head coaches are not supposed to be in the blue. Nobody from the team is supposed to be in the blue tent with whenever the NFL appointed neurologist goes into the blue tent with a player. None of the coaching staff is supposed to be in there. No players, no coaching staff. So I believe you could have a medical representative from your team, but when the independent neurologist is in there doing an evaluation, they are supposed to keep their mouth shut and their hands off, let him do his job, because that's where a lot of teams are getting fined. I mean, I believe they got fined for that, and it's an organizational fine. So, once staying with the quarterback connection, one last bullet point that we'll cover is: would you rather reset everything at once or stabilize one side of the ball? We had the number one pick.
I don't know. That's tough because both sides need help. I think I'd rather focus on one side of the ball. Just get a strength on the team, because we have so many holes on both sides of the ball where you try to pick players for both sides. You can wind up in a situation where you still don't have an identity and you're still struggling to figure out on how you're going to win games. I mean, because look at this season. Going into this season, we thought our offense was going to have to carry us. They obviously couldn't. We couldn't run the ball. Our offensive line in the first half of the season couldn't block anybody. And then the second half of the season, they started blocking better. And then Geno Smith held the ball for a whole minute. And then our defense, some games they looked like they were legit. And then other games they got blown out 30+ points. I think we're closer on offense with our pieces because we have a running back. We have generational tight end and a very, very good second tight end. Our receivers are young. We definitely need a number one receiver, and then we need to strengthen up our O-line, which you could argue right now that we can build off of Miller and JPJ for now, and then maybe even Rodgers, because Rodgers showed a lot of promise the second half of the season. So I think we're a lot closer pieces-wise on the offensive side of the ball, and we just need that true leader on the offensive coordinator and a quarterback. So I would be more leaning towards focus on building up offense. Bring in some vets in the free agency on defense, and then maybe draft two pieces. I think drafting D tackles or a DN would definitely help out the back end of our defense a lot more, because we need to get pressure on the quarterback. And that doesn't take a lot of draft capital, drafting two pieces on defense. And we got 10 picks. So
Yeah, and we'll dig as the off season goes on. We'll dig more into it, but just for the early onset, my perspective is if you go into free agency, you're aggressive in free agency, and you hit those numbers and those positions in free agency and address those holes in free agency immediately. That gives you a better bargaining chip and better movement with your draft, and that way you are not reaching in the draft to try and fill a hole. So it's very important to do that. I mean, even though we have certain players at certain positions that we like, Rogers or Grant or JPJ or Colton Miller, we still have to address those. Those are constant fill and flow type positions. We got to constantly do it. Where we've been messing up as a franchise is we haven't properly addressed the quarterback position. And one of the things that the NFL has done, and the example that has been laid out over the last couple decades, is you never forget about your quarterback room when you go into the draft. Period. The end. Clip that. If you want success in the NFL and you're in position to draft a franchise quarterback, that has to be a priority number one. That is the position. Duncan, you said, we need an identity. Well, where does our identity come from? Where's the first piece on the puzzle that gives us an identity? It's the quarterback. It's not the edge rusher on the left side of the line. It's the quarterback. That gives us our identity. So you bring in a quarterback that's going to be our franchise quarterback, and he's going to set the table for what our identity is going to be. I'm going to say the name. Some people on Raider Nation go, some people will say, not a bad comparison. We had Derek Carr was our identity. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. So he was our identity. He was a second round pick 35th in the draft. 35th or 36th. I keep getting that messed up, but he was either 35th or 36th. I always said he was the 35th or 36th pick. He's picked in the top 40, right? I had said earlier on a previous show that if you're going to draft with the intent of drafting a franchise quarterback, you must do it within the first 40 picks. Okay. Now, some people are going to say, well, Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, you're contradicting yourself. No, I'm not contradicting myself because Tom Brady was not drafted to be a franchise quarterback. Dak Prescott was not drafted. It was an opportunity. He was an opportunity to come in and develop. Okay. When you take a quarterback in the top 40, that is the guy you have every intent to hitch your wagon to him to take you to the promised land. Even if they are in a developmental state, even if they're going to come out of college and you're going to say, okay, we're going to sit him for a year. We're going to sit him for half a season, or we're going to let him get to a point where we feel comfortable starting him. Okay. But you're still drafting him with the intent of being the franchise quarterback. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Because I just want to be clear on that. Yeah, I just want to be clear on that. Now, here's a caveat to that. Okay, here's the flip side. Here's the negativity, and this is where the Raider organization comes into this. The Raider organization for the last several years has been sitting there waiting to get a franchise quarterback. Okay. I know Coach Davis drafted Jamarcus Russell. God bless it. I was one of those guys that, oh man, his arm. Well, Jamarcus Russell was a great quarterback until you got to his right shoulder. Anything past his right shoulder was, and you need more than that to play quarterback in the NFL than just an arm. You know that, and I know that. And everybody else in Raider Nation knows that. It takes way more. You have to have character. You have to have some type of stature. You have to be able to walk out onto the field when you're buckling your chin strap and those other 10 guys follow you out there, and you lead them. That's what it's going to take. And whenever you take a quarterback, he has to have what, Duncan? What's the most important quality he has to have?
A brain.
Leadership. Leadership. It's very, very, very important at the quarterback position. And then the rest of your leaders fall in place, such as your center. You need to be really dynamic as an offense. You're going to need a center that's going to have at most elite leadership qualities. On the defensive side of the ball, you're going to need a defensive lineman that has leadership qualities. You're going to need a linebacker that's got leadership qualities, and you're going to need somebody in the secondary, preferably a strong safety, that has leadership qualities. It takes more than one person to be a leader on the team. I love Max Crosby to death. He's been a great Raider. I hope he remains a Raider. But your left defensive end edge rusher should not be the one setting the tone for the rest of the defense. It should be up the middle. It should be the linebacker. It should be the strong safety. Those are the ones that should be your ultimate leader. And even if we go back in history, because I know a little bit about the history, and I can go back a lot farther than what you can. You go back to that 1983 season, the 1981 season, Ted Hendricks was a leader, but he depended on Matt Millen to be the actual leader from the middle of the field. And he taught him how to be that leader from the middle of the field. And that in and of itself gave that rest of that defense quality and confidence to do their thing. And that defense was nasty back then. Anything else?
No. I mean, leadership's great. Definitely have to have the talent to help back it up, though.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, you're going to need the guy's got to be able to throw the ball. He's got to be able to run, because quarterbacks need to run nowadays, especially from the shotgun.
Yeah.
You need a quarterback that can play under center as well. And usually your taller centers play better from under. They can do very well from under center when they're taller because they're already up high enough to read the second level of the defense versus a shorter quarterback that, i.e. Drew Brees, could not play from under center. He couldn't see. He had to step back.
Kyler
and
Murray.
I use the neighbor fence as an example so people can understand and it makes more sense. I use the neighbor fence. I'm 6'4", and if I stand up against the fence, I could look over the fence and see my neighbor who's 5'9". Okay. Now, if I back up and he stays there, I lose sight of him. But now if he backs up, I can see him. Now, if I'm 5'9", he's 5'9", I have to back all the way up before I can see him. And that's the principle on which the height of the quarterback makes a difference because he has to look over the fence to make the reads and make the connections. And when you have 6'5" and 6'7" offensive linemen and defensive linemen in your way, makes it about the only thing that you're going to have are slices and windows in between. And if you're going to rely on slices and windows to deliver the ball down the field, it's going to be very difficult. Drew Brees was able to do it. But I also think that their blocking schemes were intentional to create those throwing lanes at the offensive line. So,
yeah. Looking at the chat real quick, Raider Nate came in. First, you get good coaches, then you get good players, then you tell them one thing:
just win, baby.
Yep.
Just win.
And welcome, Cabrera.
Cabrera J, 1988. Welcome in, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but no, leadership stuff.
Robert Pena's got the absolute bow on this one. Just don't fuck this up.
Yeah.
Don't. If we're having this same conversation this time next year, how much of Raider Nation is going to hang on? How much you are because the soul of the team, the roots of the team have already been relocated. Okay, they've already been relocated to another city. To hang on to the rest of the tree with the same roots, you're going to have to blossom. That tree's going to have to sprout and blossom. Otherwise, it's going to die. And the Raider Nation is just like a tree, man. We start from the roots, we go to the trunk, all the way up into the branches and into the leaves. And if we don't fix what we're fixing, those roots are going to die. And your generation, Duncan, is going to wither down And then it's going to be a whole different generation. It's not going to really know and understand what it truly, truly means. Then you're going to have a lot of fair weather fans. Okay. Now, some people will say we have fair weather fans because we're not filling our stadium up with Raider fans. That's because we took the roots out of Oakland and we put them into Vegas.
And we
they
don't
stayed
win.
it, and we're not winning. So what happens when it happens? That's the biggest thing. If you don't win, you're not watering the tree. So we got to move on. We got to get better. And Robert Pena, salute my brother. You're absolutely right. It just he said better myself. So let's see.
I mean, the two major points that we need to get this offseason is coach and a quarterback, and we need the perfect marriage between the two.
Yeah.
And we definitely need a coach who's going to fit, or rather, we definitely need to draft the quarterback that's going to fit the coach we get.
It's got to be It's got to be harmonious, the two of them.
Yeah.
It absolutely has to. And obviously, we're going to have the coach before we go to the draft. And that coach needs to be lockstep in that evaluation process with that draft pick. Lockstep. And it has to be absolute. And then once that draft pick is made, then we've created a marriage. Don't screw this up and end in divorce. Go. The both of you, go. And start winning us some games.
Yeah.
And at this point, I don't know about any of you guys in the chat. At this point, it's not about the wins or losses as much as it is give us something we can be proud of. Besides one freaking game, or 2 games. I would say the Patriots game, I was proud of them. I was proud of my Raiders. And the Texans game, I was proud of them coming out and performing the way that they performed against a high-quality team that's going to the playoffs, and they made it a game, and it made it feel like we still had something. There was a heartbeat there. We could feel a heartbeat. So, and that's what we're looking for at this point. Because the way it's been since 2023 has been flatline. Time to get a heartbeat. We need it. It has to be week in and week out. Good. I don't want to. We're going to talk about organizational alignment a little bit now. Moving on. And we've already talked about this. Does the next coach need final roster say yes or no? Yes, with the but. What say you, Duncan?
I think he needs to focus on coaching the players he's given. And then once he starts getting more of a relationship with Spytek and they start unifying in their vision, he can start having more of a say.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I think we need to fully trust in Spytek, especially with how the reports are talking about all the extra effort Spytek was giving to our players.
Which he shouldn't be doing that. That takes away from his actual what he needs to be doing.
Well, I'm okay with him doing it, but my biggest problem is where are the coaches? Why are the coaches not putting that extra step in, that extra mile?
My question is, as a GM, I would be in the head coach's office the next morning going, why am I over here helping your offensive line get ready for a game, going over game film with them because they're not getting adequate attention from your position coach or your offensive coordinator? Why?
Yeah.
Could that be a factor on why Chip Kelly was fired? And if it is, that's pretty stupid because it's Pete Carroll's the one that hired his son. Chip Kelly didn't.
Well, I'm not even looking at Chip Kelly in this whole thing. I'm looking at Pete Carroll the whole time. Because ultimately, we have rookies on both sides of the ball that we're not playing. And here we got Spytek putting that extra effort in, going watching film with them, doing film study with them, telling them how they can improve and this and that, putting all that extra effort in them. Where the hell are the coaches helping out these rookies?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they completely failed Dante Thornton. They let all this hype and everything build up Thornton in all the offseason, and then he starts making rookie mistakes during the regular season, and then ends up getting thrown under the bus by our quarterback when the quarterback made the bad play. And then they completely bench him, and he doesn't see the field hardly ever again. Like, they completely destroyed his confidence. I am willing to bet Thornton's going to be a non-factor next year, and we're going to completely forget about him, and then he may end up surprising us in the following season. Like, it's just absolutely ludicrous how terrible this coaching staff is with the young players, and I am so happy they're done.
Coaching staff was.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm so happy they're gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to find a coach who's going to put in, at bare minimum, the same amount of effort that Spytek has done this last season.
Because the hierarchy is going to be, and this is the way the hierarchy should be, is if for some reason the offensive line coach is not doing his job, then the offensive coordinator needs to be made aware of it to address the situation now. If that's not satisfactory, then the offensive coordinator needs to go to the head coach and address it now.
Well,
here's the problem: you have the son of the head coach, and the offensive coordinator is in the middle of it. So how does he address it? If you have a hierarchy and it's addressed properly, I don't care whose son you are. You ain't doing your job. I don't care who your daddy is. I'm going to go talk to your daddy. And if your daddy don't like it, then we're going up to the big boss to figure out why this shit isn't getting done the right way. That's how you handle that situation.
Yeah. And then I also found when it came to those reports about Chip Kelly calling the wrong plays, it's hilarious how there was other reports coming out saying that Chip Kelly started calling plays based off of what Pete Carroll was telling him to.
Okay, he's the head coach.
Yeah, but guess what? If it's Chip Kelly's playbook and then Pete Carroll starts calling plays in the middle of a game, I wonder why the plays aren't being coached up.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So it's Pete Carroll saying call this play when we haven't practiced that play, but I got to call that play because the head coach told me to.
Yeah.
Okay. I get that. And that kind of makes sense in a roundabout way because who has the greatest relationship? Brennan Carroll, Geno Smith, Pete Carroll, right? So the outsider in that family reunion is Chip Kelly. But Chip Kelly's calling the plays. Now, excuse me. If you're the head coach and you have an offensive coordinator that's calling plays, it shouldn't be, I need you to run double tight right, 36 blast on, and then with the check me for, X dump, Y seam. All right. And whatever their play calls are, right? I'm just using examples. Okay. Well, if you haven't practiced that, they're not ready for it. Now, what the head coach should be saying is he should go over to his office or get on the mic with his offense coordinator and say, "Hey, Chip, hey, I'm seeing a lot of 5 and 6 man fronts. They're backing off. They're not coming. They're anticipating your medium to underneath throws. Why don't we look at checking into a run play? Let's check in it, or we have the ball at this position of the field. I want to see some more run plays, and let's run play action off of that. What do you think? Yeah, let's do it. Okay, you collaborate. You go into your playbook. You dig those plays out. Those plays are in the game plan. Then you go. That's the optimal way to run things. But if it's like, because we had that problem. We had that problem in the early 90s with Terry Robisky and Coach Davis. Mr. Davis would see things on the field, and he had bright mind. He understand football, and he would see things, and he would call down and tell the offensive coordinator what plays to run. Now, this isn't a rumor. This has been observed by multiple people of him getting up out of his seat in the luxury box, going over to by where the coach's box is, and yelling at them to run a certain play when the offensive coordinator and the team is not ready for that specific play. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we can't have that. It's got. I mean, it's got to be fluid. If you see something during the game as an administrator or a head coach that you think we need to make those corrections, the time is to make the corrections when you're one on one with your coaches, or you're in your coach meeting setting to address those.
Well, luckily that's over with. We got rid of that poison because
Oh yeah,
it was just absolutely disgusting how that was allowed to continue for how long it did.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I mean, it's the 45 plus years that I've been a Raider fan, that was the worst season. It was bad.
But no, definitely need to nail this coaching hire. Absolutely need to knock it out of the park. They're going to definitely do their due diligence in their meetings with these coaches that they bring in that they want. Right now, Flores is the big name. And then Saleh has been mentioned here and there, but definitely seems like Brady wants Flores because of Patriot connections. Mm-hmm. And then that would also link up with Dable, who also was a Patriot coach.
Mm-hmm.
So we may be revisiting this Patriot way. Hooray, I guess, but I don't know.
There's one thing I can say about Brian Flores, though. Yeah, he does come from the Bill Belichick Patriot coaching tree. I get that. But from what I saw him in Miami, he was of his own kind. And I didn't – his failure in Miami was political. It wasn't what he was doing as a coach specifically. And then the hierarchy, the way they did the organizational structure, which is important. We talked about that. The organizational structure in Miami was very similar to how we do things, where players and assistant coaches were skipping that and going up to the next person. It's like in the military. In the military, private first class can't go straight to the general and complain. Okay? That's not how this works. You have to have an hierarchy. You have to have a chain of command. And you need to follow that chain of command. And to be quite honest with you, unless there's something serious or dangerous that's happening in on the field or during the coaching techniques or whatever that need to be addressed, if it's just scheme or patterns of weaknesses or strengths, if that player goes above and outside the chain of command, that player should be punished for that. It's like follow the chain of command.
Well, it's hard to comment on something like that because here I'm saying how great Spytek is for going above and beyond and helping the rookies out with their film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's going outside the scope of the head coaches.
It is, but the head coach should be involved.
It should be. The whole coaching staff should be involved.
Yes,
but
now maybe that's it. Maybe that's one of the same things that they addressed. It's like when at the conclusion of the year, that could be a standing factor on why Pete Carroll was relieved of his duties. It's like, hey, why do I got these guys in my office doing this? You're the head coach. You should be taking care of this, not me. If that's how he handled it. Now, if Spytek for some reason thought he was being a champion and gonna implement some of his coaching strategy or not so much force it upon it, but take it like, I get to practice coach a little bit here. And if that's the way he felt and that's the way he handled it, absolutely wrong. He failed as a general manager. He absolutely failed because now, not only that, it also shows the rest of the players that in the future, if something happens, they can go straight to Spytek. They don't have to go there. So the next head coach that comes in, he creates a chain of command, a hierarchy of how things are supposed to be done. If for some reason that player all of a sudden has the confidence of, if I don't like what the coach is doing, I'll go straight to the general manager. Well, unless it's something, unless it involves a collective bargaining agreement, player safety, or anything like that, anything else has to go chain of command. If it's coaching techniques, if it's, all that, anything that it pertains in between the white lines has to go through the chain of command. The only time you should skip the head coach and go straight to the GM or straight to the owner is if you have CBA issues, you have a union issue, such as too long of practices or, hey, we had, he's wanting to do 6 practices this week and we only have 4 days to prepare type thing, that's outside the CBA and you're not allowed to do that, then I can see that. So it could be addressed before it becomes an NFL issue. Because once it gets to the NFL that you're making those violations, then the organization suffers even more consequences. They start taking your draft picks away from you.
Yeah. Okay. So sticking with the coaching topic on who we possibly want as our head coach. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said earlier, there's a lot more defensive coaches that I find intriguing to be our head coach than offensive coaches.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, what do you think about Stefanski?
Not as a head coach.
I'm okay with that. So we go defensive coach. I personally like 2 younger defensive coaches, and Shula and then Minter from the Chargers. I think they'd be great coaches that could learn and grow with our young team that we're building. And then you bring in somebody like a Stefanski who has head coaching experience and a lot of experience calling plays in the NFL. And he does call pretty good offenses despite having lesser quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the last good quarterback that actually played well for him was
Flacco.
I would say the quarterback that's currently in Tampa Bay.
You said the last quarterback that he had success with.
Well,
that he coached.
like
I could see the
together,
Baker. Huh? Yeah, but you
like
saw
3
it. You
games
saw it.
together.
I mean, obviously, Flacco Flacco has a little bit of a resume. I mean, he's got a ring.
Yeah,
Quarterback. As a
But-
quarterback. So
they started finding their groove with Baker, and then here all of a sudden the flashy name of Watson comes up, and the Browns ownership takes it
mhm.
despite all that baggage, and completely throws their team into shambles when they were consistently making progress with Baker.
Yep.
And hey, there's your leadership, Baker, and then the ownership gets rid of it.
Yep.
I think Stefanski would be a great hire, whether it be OC or head coach.
So then the next bullet point that I'm going to bring up is was considered timeline and patience. Okay, we're going to talk about this, but I want, if anybody's out there, we have 12, 13 people listening, watching us at the same time. If you're in there and you want to chat up, man. There's no wrong or right answers. We might ask for clarification. There might be a disagreement. You might disagree with us, and that's okay as well. But hit that chat up. But we're going to bring this next topic into play, and I really want the chat to really think long and hard on this one, because this is where us as a fan, as the Raider Nation, come together and we pull out our shields and we show our true colors. So we're going to work on timeline and patience, my friend. First and foremost, how long should the Raider Nation realistically give the next coach?
3 years.
That's the Raider Nation. I'm talking Raider Nation, not the organization, us as fans.
Us as fans, how much time should we give the
The next head
organization?
coach. No. How long should Raider Nation realistically give the next coach before we turn on? Because it
3
took
years.
it took 4 games for us to turn on Pete Carroll.
I would argue before a game was even played, we turned on Pete Carroll. Some of us.
Well, there was a lot. Wow, there was a lot of people that were, I want this guy, I want that guy. But ultimately, when we get a guy and it's ours, he's in place, we all should come together and expect something, right? But as a whole, like, for example, with me, I was a Pete Carroll fan. I thought it was a great hire. I kind of saw what the idea was, and the idea was to bring us back to relevance, build and nurture a staff to which, when he's ready to retire, he can hand this team over to that staff, and we just keep going. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was my thing with Pete Carroll, but it was right about game 4. Really, in all honesty, the Colts game, is when I saw there's huge coaching errors that are occurring, and him being the quote unquote Hall of Fame coach is responsible for those errors that were occurring.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ideally, you want to give the coach 3 years. This next season, all I want is some sort of a semblance of us getting better.
Mm-hmm.
6 wins, perfect. That's the goal. Let's get 6 wins.
Mm-hmm.
Year 2 with the coach, we start seeing some sort of a semblance of an identity. Whether it's offensive, defensive, a mix, whatever, we start getting that identity and we improve and start having a lot more close games. Year 3, we'd better be pushing for playoffs or division winners.
I think the identity needs to be set mid-season next year, to where it's a very visible, very visible. Because I'll use a team right now. The perfect example is the New York Giants. I can tell you what their identity is, even though they didn't from the time that they went full bore with their draft pick, got them seasoned. Got him. Obviously he got hurt here and there.
Their identity is CTE right now.
No, but truly their identity is going to be a heavy run, right? And it's going to be founded by hard-nosed, gritty players. Because Jackson Dart is a gritty player. Scadaboo is a gritty player. Malik Neighbors is a real gritty wide receiver. So you can just tell what their identity is. They're starting to formulate their identity now. Okay, it's kind of like that. The puppy dog just opened his eyes. They're at that stage right now. They just opened their eyes. They're still in the bassinet with their mother. Okay, but they've opened their eyes, and there's some type of identity. And then you can pick out. You ever see a litter of puppies? You can start to pick out which one's the male dominant one, which one is more playful, which one is just I don't care and relax. The litter is starting to form its identity at that point. The same thing with the football team is starting to develop that identity. It's got to be early on, week 6, week 8. We got to start to see that identity. Hopefully, we got 2 or 3 wins under our belt to show, the confidence that we can build in these young players, and then just start to build and build. Yeah. And then when we come back in 27, we just add more pieces to that. And then in 27. If you do it right in 27, we should be a playoff caliber, if not better, team. It could happen. The way the NFL is designed now, it could happen. But at some point, you're absolutely right. The identity is the most important, and it's how early. Ryan Tamales, real quick, we addressed this earlier in the show with Cignetti. I like Cignetti, but I like him at the college level. He does not have much of the NFL experience under his belt. His entire resume is based off of college. So to pull him out of the college ranks and put him into the NFL ranks, little bit different. It's a little bit different. It's a whole different animal. You have to appreciate what he's done in Indiana. Absolutely, 110%. And it's a start, but it kind of gives you starstruck ideas. But for the most part, one, does he have the want and will to go to the NFL? Because if you listen to him, he's 62 years old, so he's in the twilight years of his life, his actual personal life. So at this point, and what he's done in Indiana, I think he just wants to add to his legacy at Indiana and call it a day. He just signed a big contract. What do I need to go to the NFL for? I'm going to make I'm getting generational money right now at Indiana that also has probably one of the best NIL pockets in college football. So you got to realize one of the richest men in the world is an alumni of Indiana.
Well, so personally, I would give Cignetti the blank check, but I don't think Cignetti takes it. I think he wants to stay in college. I'd
be intrigued on if we got him to come to us. I would be intrigued. I'd have a little bit of an excitement, because of what I've seen with him. But at the same time, there's apprehension because it's it's 2 different levels. There's 2 different types, So
Yeah,
you got
but
it.
the systems he runs are very, very friendly for the NFL game.
Absent the systems, I'm going to take the systems out of it. Take the systems out of it. It's completely different dealing with grown men, you know, than it is kids just out of college or they're just starting to develop their college manhood. So they're still in their infancy of growth versus somebody that is been in the NFL 6, 7 years, has 3 Pro Bowls. Coaching him is a lot different than coaching somebody that is a 4-star recruit that you just got out of the portal that's got 2 years in college. It's just and I'm not saying he can't do it. Trust
No,
me, I'm not trying to be contradictory, but
that's the
it's just a
biggest thing
gamble
with
you
college coaches.
that's a
I mean,
gamble you take when you go ahead.
Saban can't coach in the NFL because he can't bring his system. Well, not system, but his mentality doesn't work with NFL players. Urban Meyer's failed twice now in the NFL. Like, no, you're completely spot on with college coaches struggling to coach grown men. But Signetti, in my mind, is completely different in his coaching style compared to like those two guys because he's doesn't come off as a do it my way or the highway kind of thing. He comes off as a he's going to teach you how to do it the right way, and as soon as you do it the wrong way, he's right there reminding you like, hey, should have been doing it this way. Well, I've been telling you, come on, keep doing it.
Yeah. So that's kind of the take that we have on it, Ryan. We're not knocking your take. In fact, it's a really, really good take, as far as I'm concerned, because even I was like doing like this when I heard, a couple months ago, I was actually watching Indiana versus Penn State, and I'm sitting there, man, I wonder what he would look like wearing silver and black as a coach. Because he has the mentality. He really has that no holds barred mentality as a coach. You know what I mean? He really does. But at the same time, how does it train? It's very difficult to take that coach out of college and put him in the pros. Now, Harbaugh, somebody's going to probably throw out there, Harbaugh, nothing. Harbaugh, he started in the NFL coaching. His dad was a college coach. Harbaugh has a whole spectrum of coaching.
Yeah. He even played in the NFL.
And he played in the NFL and had a very successful career in the NFL. And he comes from a coaching tree through his dad and his brother and all the other Michiganites. He's a Bo Schembechler guy, and he's coached under, his first coaching job was under John Gruden with the Raiders. I mean, so he's kind of a misnomer when you start to compare the two from college to pro. So try not to get caught up in the success of a coach in college that it would necessarily translate into the NFL. But at the same time, you don't want to turn your back to it. Let's see. Is okay? We've already talked about this one. We covered this one. So if there's no progress by midseason of 2026, do you already start questioning the hire at coach?
No. Well, I guess depends on what you mean by progress. Like, do you mean progress as in from week 1 to week 8 or 9, or progress from this last season we just ended to midseason? Right? Because if it's progress from last season to this midseason, then start having some questions. But really, the biggest thing is what is going on with the team throughout that trip to midseason. We keep playing players out of position. Are we not coaching players up? Are we only starting veteran players and not starting rookies or second-year players? Like, what's everything going on? Is there dysfunction in the locker room by midseason? Like, it's just all depends, really.
Progress is progress.
Yeah. I mean,
progress is progress.
At the same time, also, when you're trying to build something, not everybody's going to like how it's being built, and there's going to be opinions flying around.
Mhm.
Sometimes you just got to trim the fat.
Yeah. So some of the word, and my take, some of the words you're going to hear are probably going to annoy the shit out of everybody, but I don't care. First things first. Progress to me is one: are you beating the teams you're supposed to beat? Now, right now, we're the 32nd team in the NFL, so we're not expected to beat anybody next year, going into next year, right? Based on how we finish this year, we're not expected to beat anybody next year. So the expectations are going to be, they're already in the basement for our expectations. But I myself, and I think the ownership and GM can attest to this as well, because I'm sure they're watching our show, you know. But the expectations for us is beat the teams you're supposed to beat and compete. There's the word, compete against the higher teams. In other words, don't get your ass whipped by 31-0 and the game be over at halftime. Come out, compete. Okay. If the score is 24-13, 24-17 going into the fourth quarter, and you lose 30-21, notice I use 30-21 as a number. If you lose 30-21, but you were competing and it became a seesaw battle in the fourth quarter and you just couldn't, it was there and you can see it. And you know, and I know when you're watching the game, you can tell whether or not, you know, there's progress. You know, it's like, oh, we almost had that player. But if they're just jamming it down your throat and the other team's going back into the huddle laughing at us, then we're not getting better. We're not progressing. So we got the progression, and it starts week 1. You set a standard week 1. Week 2, you want to be better than what you were week 1. Week 3, better than week 2. Week 4, better than week 3. Week 5, you might have a little hiccup, be better than week 3, but not as good as week 4, so on and so forth. And it doesn't, and you don't have to be an NFL expert or anything like that to tell the difference of what's going on. We as Raider fans, we should be able to tell right away, especially with what we've seen in the last 3 years. We should be able to tell right away. So, what say you, Duncan?
I don't know. After dealing with this last season, I don't want to really set a bar. I just want to react to what goes on, and I mean, ultimately, I want to see progress. I want to be able to score points mostly. I'm tired of having offenses that came and scored 20 points in a game. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I mean, a halfway point in the first season, I don't like putting that as we need to be here by this time kind of thing. But I mean, the writing was on the wall pretty quickly with Pete Carroll. So, I mean, it very well could be, time to start looking for the next head coach. And
there was no progression. Yeah, there was no progression with him.
Exactly. I mean, there was regression across the board before we even played the first game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's just, it's rough because I really want to be in that position saying we can't just keep firing a coach every single year. And look,
would you accept a losing season if it meant long-term clarity?
Yeah. Like I said earlier in the show, I mean, I'd be happy with 6 wins next season.
Yeah.
I mean, especially given our schedule. I mean, I may lower that to 4 wins.
Yeah.
But
is blowing it up versus sticking with an imperfect plan?
Sorry, what was that? You broke up.
Would it be more acceptable, or would you prefer blowing it up again worse than sticking with an imperfect plan? Let's say going into the next year, the plan that we have going into 2026 doesn't work out. Would you consider blowing it up again or trying to stick with what we have?
I mean, it really depends. Because if it's looking like last season or this season that just ended, I mean, it'd definitely be in my mind to blow it up. But we're just in a terrible spot because we've been so bad for so long.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. We've gotten to the point now with the Raider fan PTSD. We can't even recover from it. It just seems like it's one after another, after another, after another, and I'm sick and tired of it. I know you're sick and tired of it because you've seen it almost your whole life.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I remember before 1993, and really I use that as a benchmark. You'll hear me see this a lot throughout our shows. For the rest of the time we do shows together, 1993 was actually the watermark of when this franchise started to deteriorate from a football standpoint. And that was the advent of unrestricted free agency. Because one, Mr. Davis didn't know how to do it. He relied on his image and his persona to get veterans to come play for us. 1993, when unrestricted free agency kicked in, then it was about the money. You got to have the money before you can say, I think you would make a great Raider playing for us in the silver and black. You know, his usual sales pitch that he would do. And, he had warm these guys up. He would regurgitate, hey, when you were in high school, you ran this play and, tell your mom so-and-so, because he would know everybody's birthday on your family, all that stuff. He was really good at knowing the background of players. But in 1993, it became about the money. It really, it became about the money. So
that's all the NFL is now.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be the highest paid this and that.
Yeah. So before we wrap up the show, one last bullet point here. Is this the last chance before fans completely check out?
I think this next coaching regime could be. I don't want to say this next season is. I think it's more based off the regime. Because
from Tom Brady on down, right?
I mean, I feel like Tom Brady's new enough to where people will still be willing to give him a chance. But
this is it right here.
One and done with Tom Brady.
If he doesn't rectify his mistakes from last year, then because where we stand right now, we're in prime opportunity to build and do it the right way. Now I don't want to say he's the ultimate commander in chief in this operation. I do know that Mark Davis says, hey, you and Spytech, you guys figure this out. You guys are the football guys. I don't think either one. Ultimately, it has to be Spytech that makes that decision.
Well, Brady's an owner, so
I know,
looming over it the whole time.
But he's not going to fire himself if it doesn't work.
No, right. I think they actually let Spytech finish his whole contract out. Because, I mean, look at the NFL right now on successful teams. It seems to be the common successful pattern is letting your GM do their job.
Yeah.
Let them have full control of the roster.
Yeah.
Coach is coach, GM assembles the roster.
Yeah. So my take on it, I'll end it here with my take, and unless you got anything else, is for me, it's never going to be the end because it's my life. Besides my wife and kids, it's the Raiders, and sometimes I think I put the Raiders ahead of my wife and kids. I felt that way when I had the season. That's why I gave up my season tickets, is because they weren't buying into my passion like I thought they would. And so it got to the point where it's it's better just to give up the season tickets. Happy wife, happy life, right? And my phone's blowing up. That's another reason why. It's it's been an hour and a half. Where are you at?
Well, winning cures everything.
Yeah. And a good hug and a kiss too, but you know how that goes. And as you grow as a father, you'll understand that sometimes you gotta, even though we have our own impulses and desires of what makes us happy, sometimes you gotta sacrifice those for your family as well.
Yeah.
And if it means going to a dance recital or something like that, when there's a Raider game on, you go to the dance recital. You don't watch the Raider game. So I learned that the hard way, and that's why I ultimately had to make the decision. It sucked giving up those season tickets, but but the promise that was made to me is if I did, that I would have unadulterated watching of football on Sundays. So,
well, like DT Raider says, live and die a Raider fan.
Yep, I'll never lose my love for the team.
Yeah.
So, having said that, we got a show next week, Mr. Duncan.
Oh yeah, I think we talked about it earlier, but we're going to be pushing it back a half hour.
Yeah, so we're going to probably start shooting. Yeah, and also you guys hit those subscribe and like buttons, and the notifications, ring the bell for us. If you have friends out there that are Raider fans and want to come in and chat with us, send them the link, man. Get them in here. The more the merrier. It only helps us grow this channel. We have more in store for you coming up in the off season that we're going to look into Raider fandom. Some of you guys in the chat, we might invite you to come in and be on screen with us so we could talk about what it's like to be a Raider fan and give us your takes, your experiences, what you think, and if you want to give your takes while you're on camera, so be it. That's what we're here for. We're trying to create this channel so it's more specific towards fans. I don't want to do a phone-in show, but if I have to get a different phone number, start doing a phone-in show to get you guys to speak up a little bit more, we might go that route too. But in the meantime, Duncan, anything?
No, just excited for what this offseason can bring us. I mean, unfortunately, being a Raider fan, that's our most entertaining time of the year is the offseason.
Mm-hmm. And it has been.
But
so,
I mean, like Al Davis says, is you always want to look for the future. The greatness in the Raiders is the future.
Yeah. So until next time, folks, keep those alerts on, and you never know, we might pop up on a Thursday or Friday with an impromptu show, depending. And also, too, you might see one of us do a show solo together. I know Duncan's a heck of a lot better looking than I am, so that probably wouldn't be a bad idea. So for the 15, 20, 25 people at any given time that we're in here, if you're still here, we salute you, and go Raiders.
Go Raiders.
Cold open, counted out. Yeah, we heard the talk. Cold nights and long losses, still we walk. Scoreboard hurt, but the heart stayed real. Still wear the black, still flash the shield. From Oakland roots to Vegas dust, pain in the season, but we still trust. They say it's over, I say move on, but Raiders